So welcome everyone.
Excited to be here. We're gonna get started in just a few seconds here, but in the meantime, our audience, as they trickle in, you guys can take a look at some of the pictures that are popping up on your screen. So we're gonna take every opportunity to highlight our winners today. Embarrass you guys, talk about you guys, everything that we possibly can.
Good luck with that.
All right. How are we doing for a crowd, Nat?
I see some people trickling in.
You can actually see how many people are on?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can.
Where they're from? And all the rest?
Not where they're from, but we can see how many, what the size of the crowd, etc. is. I think that would be more of a privacy thing. Okay. I think we should be good to get started. I think we have a really good crowd here. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Hey everyone, this is Cal Sohoda here, VP of Possibilities with the HeroX team. We're really pleased and super excited to be hosting the Preserving the Natural Flavor of Catfish Challenge. So yes, that was a challenge, and this is our winners webinar. A winners webinar at HeroX is a really unique opportunity for you as the audience to get a glimpse behind the solution. So today you're going to learn a lot more about the faces behind the names of these winners, but also you're going to learn a lot more about the actual solutions themselves. So you're going to hear about what compelled them to compete. You're going to hear about what inspired their amazing solutions. The USDA most definitely, I've got two of them here with me today, have an amazing amount of talent under their roof. There's just no doubt. But even they know that genius can literally live anywhere. So we're really excited to share some amazing stories that are hopefully going to leave you both informed as well as hugely inspired. So since we have a few guests at our party today, my thought is we can get kicked off with just some quick introductions. Joining me today from our HeroX team, we have with us Natalie York, who had the pleasure of leading the project management effort on this amazing challenge. How you doing, Nat?
I'm good, thanks.
So tell us a little bit about you.
For sure. I just want to start off actually by saying thank you for to everyone who's tuning in, and thank you to all the participants and especially the winners that we have here today for all your hard work on the submissions. They were very interesting to read. So as Cal mentioned, my name's Natalie, and I'm the project manager for the Catfish Challenge and the project manager for a number of challenges at HeroX. So what that means is I support our clients through when we launch the challenge, through the challenge design, all the way to the winner's announcement at the end, which is where we are now. And this was a very fun and interesting challenge for me. I feel like I got to learn so much about the catfish industry and the issue of off flavor, and that was all completely new to me. And that's what I really love about being a project manager and just working at HeroX in general, is seeing all these challenges and the variety that we host on our platform. And I just get to learn so much about the most random topics, but I love that. So I never thought I would learn, I never thought I would know this much about catfish, but here I am. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear from the winners today and continue learning a bit more.
Amazing. Thanks, Natalie. So as I mentioned, we also have with us a couple of team members from the USDA. So joining us today, Caird Rexroad and Sujata Amani. So Caird, do you want to maybe go first and share a little bit about maybe who you are and the role that you played in this project?
Sure, thank you very much. So my name is Caird Rexroad. I'm the National Program Leader for Aquaculture at USDA-ARS. This challenge is something that we've been thinking about for a few years, and in fact, it's the first effort by our agency to look to crowdsourced innovation platform to enhance our intramural research programs. And so we're very excited for this day to be here, to get to meet our winners, and we're very much looking forward to hearing from them. Thank you.
Amazing. Sujata, over to you.
Thanks, Cal. Hi, everyone. I'm Sujata Imani. I'm the Strategic Innovation Advisor at USDA's ARS, Office of National Programs. And yeah, so open innovation is not a new thing to a lot of places. And while it might be a little new to ARS, I'm happy to see all of our winners and be a part of this conversation.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here, you guys. And of course, we have our 4 winning teams. We're really excited to shine a spotlight on you guys today. So I'm going to come to you guys one by one. So if you want to share a little bit about who you are and maybe where you're physically located, and maybe like really quickly what compelled you to compete. So how about we start with Laura?
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Maniel, and I graduated from Cornell University. I've spent many years working on solar and renewable energy research independently. I've been trying to convert my home here to be completely off-grid. And I've built many solar-powered ovens, since that is mostly what I work on, and problems related to energy transfer. Here in Brownsville, Texas, this area is actually where I was born. We've had many cancer clusters here related to pollution in our water, and that has always been a driving force for me. And one of the reasons why I specifically wanted to take a shot at the challenge is working on how we can enjoy the lives that we're used to in non-polluting ways and using clean sources. And how do you transfer energy to do that, and the mechanisms to make that possible. And that's a little bit about me. So thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. So moving on to Jenna and Kimball.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Jenna Rakovan, and I'm here today with my colleague Kimball Hall. We work at Alden Research Lab, which is a hydraulic modeling and environmental consulting firm that's located in Holden, Massachusetts. And we're really made up of fisheries biologists and engineers that do a lot of research on engineering design, fish protection, both numerical and physical modeling. And we also do a lot of testing of new technologies. So Kimball is an engineer and I'm a fish biologist, and Kimball happened to be doing some research on some nanobubbles and caught my eye and started thinking about fisheries and catfish. And I saw this challenge and thought this would be a great opportunity for us to put our heads together and work together to come up with a solution.
Wonderful. Kimball, over to you.
Hi, yeah, I'm Kimball Hall. So I work with Jenna at Alden Lab, and yeah, this opportunity for us was just it was perfect. We had an intern that studied some of what about nanobubbles, which is our idea, over the summer, and it wasn't the usual internship with the pandemic in the last year. But she's my across the street neighbor. She couldn't join us today, but she every week we'd have meetings in the front yard and over the summer, and we'd talk about some of the research. And at the end of the summer, she gave a presentation to the company, and that was right when this challenge was announced. And Jenna saw the challenge, saw the presentation, just put 2 and 2 together, and it's really been great it was perfect for our company with the combination of engineering and fisheries biology.
Sounds very serendipitous. That's awesome. Vijay, over to you.
Hello everyone. Hi, I am Sri Vijay. I'm a researcher living in India. Deeply involved for this challenge was to eliminate instances of off-flavor catfish raised ponds. That kind of a problem solving is to separate the problem into a bite-sized parts. I fell in love with the pre-harvesting treatment concept. And I am working on new concepts and new technologies. Thank you.
Wonderful. Where are you located, Vijay?
In India, Andhra Pradesh.
Nice.
Remote
So
area.
what time is it there for you?
It's around 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock midnight.
So it's really late for you.
Yeah, it's late.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And rounding off our intros, we have Stephen. Oh, you're on mute, Stephen.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly, thank you.
Let's start over. Hi, my name is Stephen Newman. I have a PhD in marine microbiology. Did my thesis on a vibrio that causes disease in farmed salmon. I live in the Seattle, Washington area, just a little bit north of Seattle. Most of my work takes me internationally. First 10 years out of grad school, I worked developing some of the first commercial fish vaccines for small companies primarily. And then after about 10 or 12 years, went off on my own. I started my current company roughly 25 years ago. It was to actually sell a product for use in the shrimp farming industry. Since then, I've focused largely on shrimp farming. I travel extensively internationally. Most of my customer base is in Southeast Asia and Central and South America. What interested me about this project was the fact that there are a number of microbial products in the marketplace that are being sold as not algicides specifically, but sold for the purpose that we're looking at here, i.e. can you in fact eliminate off flavor by getting rid of certain species of blue-green algae in these production ponds. And we've had good success in the field with impacting algae with our approach, which is not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination, but we tableted these bacteria to make it easy to use, and people just throw them into production environments, and if the nutrients are there, the bacteria grow. Very simple technology, not too complicated, and frankly, I was a little bit surprised that I was even considered because of how mundane this technology is, but I appreciate the fact that you guys think that I have something to contribute. And I'm looking forward to being able to test and evaluate this with the catfish farming industry in the United States.
Wonderful. Yeah, we definitely think that you have something to contribute. So it's really I'm glad to have you here with us today. I think you're the one that's the closest to myself and Nat physically. You're on the West Coast, so we're a little bit further up north from you. We were actually just in Seattle last February before everything locked down. So I hadn't been to Seattle in some time, so it was really nice to drop and say hi down south.
Little north. Where is the little north? Victoria?
Vancouver, British Columbia.
Okay, Vancouver. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I also want to take a moment, you guys, and acknowledge there's a couple of winning teams who weren't able to join us today, so they weren't available for the webinar, but I do want to do a shout out to them. So we have a team out of the United States, Simon Wilson and Tom Haxton. Congratulations to you guys. And as well, Team Outer Limits, located in Russia. So congratulations to you guys as well. For our audience, just really quickly, if you have any questions or comments that show up as we're working through the webinar, please drop them into the chat. Natalie's going to be monitoring the chat, and she looks forward to addressing all of your comments as they come through. And all right, so let's go to Team USDA. So Sujata, I'm curious to learn a little bit more about why your team turned to crowdsourcing. It sounds like it was the first time you guys did this. So, what kind of compelled you to lean into crowdsourcing?
Thanks, Cal. Yeah, our USDA scientists are just beginning to integrate open innovation to help find solutions. And really, we're focused on finding solutions to produce safe, healthy, and affordable food. So there's no monopoly on good ideas, as I like to say. And this isn't, there's over 300 million internet users just in North America. So thinking about how open innovation is this key mechanism that multi-billion dollar industries are using. And so we want to be a part of that as well. USDA is, our track record is about making solutions, bringing them to life and solving agricultural challenges. And that's what we're focusing on here. Integrating this open innovation into our platforms so that our projects will have more experts, right, that can contribute, identify these partnerships, and enhance how well we can bring these folks in, develop and transfer these solutions, and ultimately, for society. So that's really what it's about for us. Agriculture is not new to running these challenges, but USDA ARS was. And you know, that's really where it is. That's how we think about it, to really bring these experts in to our ecosystem, to our network.
Wonderful. Just really augmenting your existing talent. Yeah, well said.
Absolutely.
I love your comment about there's no monopoly on good ideas. I'm gonna have to use that one again. So, well said. All right, so Karen, tell us a little bit about the project itself, Catfish.
Thanks, Cal. Sounds good. So, we consider that ARS is a problem-solving agency. And so one of the challenges in particular that has faced aquaculture has been the presence of these off-flavor compounds in fish raised in ponds or even sometimes in recirculating aquaculture systems. The problem really is when a consumer eats an off-flavor product, it can be an unpleasant experience and they'll lose interest in eating that product then and sometimes in the future. So that puts it on the farmers to go through a great deal of trouble and expense to avoid off-flavor and ensure they are providing a consistently high-quality product. There's been a research community, including ARS scientists, that have looked at off-flavor for many years. We do have effective strategies for addressing it. However, it can still affect 50% of ponds and cause annual losses to the industry of $20 million. So we wanted to turn to a crowdsourced innovation platform to see what other ideas are out there that could help our farmers. So we partnered with NASA and HeroX to conduct this challenge to look for ideas that are cost effective, environmentally friendly, and effective at removing off flavor. We were looking for ideas that either address pond management, fish management, post-harvest treatment of fillets, or any combination of these approaches. So I want to thank all of our applicants that submitted their ideas for participating in the challenge, and especially congratulate our winners. I really look forward to hearing from them.
That's great. It's interesting when you go onto the HeroX platform and you look at all the different types of challenges. We oftentimes will say to clients and those that want to host challenges, I mean, so long as your concept is like legal, socially responsible, and ethical, you can literally crowdsource anything. And it's really amazing the depth of all the different types of challenges that show up on our site from all varying different industries. And I mean, this particular one, who would have thought that it would actually be something that needed to be solved? So it's really interesting when you just go and look at all the different types of challenges. So, to our listeners, if you haven't done that, you need to go on to HeroX.com and just look at all the different challenges. It's actually pretty compelling. So for this challenge, judges had determined 6 winning entries to give our audience a little bit of perspective. And the total prizes that were awarded in total were $60,000, and they were broken up between the 6 winning teams. Karen, let's chat a little bit about the number of submissions. So you guys are new to the whole idea of crowdsourcing. And Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 85 that came in, right? Okay, good.
Yes, that's right.
So, Karen, I mean, any initial thoughts? Did you have some thought on, I'll probably get these many? And were you surprised by the number that you got?
We were extremely pleased to see those 85 submissions. This being our first effort, we had no idea what we were going to see, and weren't sure about the interest that we would see from the broader community. But we were able to track the metrics during the competition and saw that there were many people that were interested and that they were in the chat rooms talking about their ideas and forming teams. And so really excited to see 85 submissions.
And what about the quality of the submissions themselves? Did that surprise you? I know there's usually varying degrees, but I mean, was that surprising to you at all?
We were really impressed with the scope of ideas. People were definitely thinking in ways that we had not thought about off flavor before and approaches to addressing it. We had really good ideas, great examples that will be presented by our winners here today, but also some other ideas. And in thinking about off flavor, it's a problem with catfish aquaculture, but it's also a problem in recirculating aquaculture. And so I think there were some great ideas that could be applicable for that issue as well.
That's really the power of crowdsourcing. There's sometimes those that haven't really had the pleasure of tapping into the creativity of the crowd, really, which is what crowdsourcing is. And sometimes there's reservations. You know, how could it be that this is what I do all day, every day? If the solution hasn't occurred to me, how is it possible that somebody that doesn't do what I do come up with a better solution? And that's where the magic is. That's exactly where the magic is, because, and Carrot and Sujata, you can probably attest to this, that when you are an expert, you have the curse of knowledge. You've seen it too many times and you continue to look at it the same way. And sometimes when you have somebody come in and look at it with fresh eyes, even if they kind of look at it from this angle, all of a sudden they see something that was just so glaringly obvious that you missed. And that's where there's just so much power to just going to the crowd, to hearing what's out there. So excited to learn a little bit more about the soft facts behind these amazing solutions. You guys ready to be put on the hot seat? No, I won't put you on the hot seat. Well, maybe I will. Let me just get my deck queued up here. Technology is not my strong suit, and I'm heading up a tech company. What does that say about me? I don't know. So let's go here. All right. All righty, so let's start with our third prize winner. Apparently the one that was the most surprised that he was selected, Stephen. So actually, before you get into your solution, just really quickly, is this the first time you've competed in a challenge?
This type of challenge, yeah. I've, in terms of grants, I've been awarded more than $1 million in grants over the years that I've been working in aquaculture, which is going on 40 plus right now. So it's, but not recently, no. I mean, you know, it's not, I rely on my own resources pretty much to fund the things I need to. So this was an interesting opportunity, and as I read through it, I felt, you know, that I'd give it a shot.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit more about your actual solution.
Well, aquaculture is a varying paradigm. There's no real consistency, you know, globally in terms of production paradigms. The species are farmed differently in different countries, and even differently in different regions and different areas within countries. So to come up with a one-shot solution is problematic at best. But the catfish farming industry in the United States has been struggling largely because of external competition from the Chinese and a few other countries that are able to produce channel catfish for less money. And part of the problems that they've been dealing with relate to water quality. I view this as a water quality issue more than anything else. The microbiomes are complex in these systems. They're constantly being impacted by what inputs are and where the farms are located in individual production philosophies. So we've been dabbling with the bacillus species for the last 15 years or so as a tool for eliminating the presence of organic matter in ponds primarily. It turns out it works as well in the other systems. We're looking at RAS systems, though it's complicated. It's not straightforward. And what we found is, you know, the picture you can see right here is from New Caledonia. We had a client who has had a problem with the filamentous blue-green algae issue on the rocks in his ponds. And when he used our product, they found that the algae didn't grow. So they also found a number of other effects. They weren't looking at off flavor per se, and off flavor is an occasional problem in saltwater and shrimp. It's not a huge problem, but it does occur. So this would give us an indication, at least in field conditions, that their approach seemed to be a viable approach. There are companies who sell large amounts of these similar products in the United States, primarily powdered. for use in ridding bodies of water of algae. And because my interest is in animal health, aquatic animal health primarily, and improving aquatic environments, reducing stress that the animals are under, this seemed like a natural approach to take. It's not strictly an algicide. It doesn't actually kill the algae directly. It acts through competitive inhibition. We're working with two species of bacillus that come from an ancient culture collection. That's one of the things about this tech is that it goes back a very long way. We originally, when we first got involved, we were looking at powdered products and a few other things. I tested these in the field in Belize, actually, in a shrimp farm. Did not like what I saw. Didn't like how they performed. And I had the idea that tableting it made more sense because the bottom of the ponds is where the issues originate typically. And when we did that, lo and behold, we saw a dramatic difference in the water quality and in the quality of the pond bottoms. So there's some challenges to this. I mean, you can't just throw it in and walk away. I mean, you still have to determine how to go about doing this in terms of timing and quantities and so on and so forth. And so I'm hopeful that I can find a couple of catfish farmers here that are interested in trying this and seeing if it is a viable approach, at least towards impacting off flavor in these animals.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing. Especially, even in your journey, like you can hear kind of what you initially were thinking and where you eventually landed. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about the solution?
Well, I think, that any solutions for these types of problems have to be easy and economical. And that's the challenge. I work with aquaculturists all over the planet, and I can assure you that most of them are not highly educated individuals, it's in fact, most of the world, this is subsistence farming almost. I mean, it's a way for a farmer to get rich quick, and so they take risks and unnecessary risks. The catfish farming industry is more mature in the United States, but it still is heavily localized in a part of the U.S. where many of the farming practices are not what I would consider to be sophisticated. They vary little from what they would have been 50 years ago. So what I'm hoping we can do is see that this type of a tool is a viable tool, at the very least for lessening the loads of organic matter that are accumulating in the ponds. The organic matter itself doesn't just contribute to the presence of blue-green algae, it also contributes to the presence of microbial pathogens in the system. And by eliminating those niches, the idea is to compete against them and see if we can in some manner affect this positively. RAS systems are new, and not really new in the sense of new in the market, but there's a lot of excitement about these. If we're going to farm shrimp extensively in the United States, it really needs to be done through RAS systems. Unfortunately, the technology is being oversold in some cases. It's not as mature as it's being made out to be in there. There's lots of people having problems, and they don't really admit that they're related to the engineering design of the system. The microbiomes in these systems are complex, and there's nothing I'd like to do more than see if we can use the bacillus species we're working with or other similar bacteria to help stabilize these systems in some way or another.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And should we move on to one of our two second prize winners? So Jenna and Kimball. Oh,
great. Yeah, let's go to the other slide.
There you go.
Yeah. So thanks, Cal. So our solution is using Nano Bubbles to treat the water. And so the first question, I guess, is what are Nano Bubbles? They're, just as the name suggests, they're extremely small, long-lasting bubbles, and they're formed when you cavitate water with a little bit of air in there. And the really high pressure and temperature that you get when those cavitation bubbles collapse, it actually breaks apart the water molecules, some of the water molecules, and you get hydroxyl radicals, which is just basically, it's an OH, oxygen, one oxygen and one hydrogen. They're really powerful oxidants. They react with a lot of things, and they're formed naturally too by UV light, and so they're present in the environment. But since they're so reactive, they don't really last very long. But the kind of the magic with the nanobubbles is that the really small bubbles, they have some interesting surface chemistry, and they kind of give a place for those hydroxyl radicals to hide for a little while, and then they can be transported from where they're made out into the pond a ways to give that the radicals a chance to do some work in cleaning up the pond. And so the great thing is that you get the benefit of this chemistry, and these hydroxyl radicals act kind of like, it's a little bit like, it's in the same family as hydrogen peroxide. And so you get the benefit of these chemicals without needing to actually add any chemicals, because it makes it directly from water. You just need to put a little bit of energy in and a little bit of air in to make this happen. And so the benefit for the catfish ponds is that there's really three main things. The first one is that it improves the water quality. It cleans up some of the nitrates and phosphates that are in the water, just naturally from you're putting nitrogen and phosphorus in all the time with the feed, and it goes through the catfish and comes out, and you get these high levels of nitrates and phosphates and high temperature, and that's what makes it possible for the cyanobacteria to grow so much. And so by lowering the nitrate and phosphate levels, you make it less likely for the cyanobacteria to grow. The second thing is that the hydroxyl radicals themselves inhibit the cyanobacteria from growing. And they also treat the off flavors a little bit, but the chemicals a little bit, but mostly what we want to do is keep those cyanobacteria from growing so much in the first place. And then the third thing is that they've been shown to be great for the health of the fish also. So the nanobubbles have been shown in a lot of studies to be beneficial for fish growth rates. And so that all sounds great. And then the challenge for this, as Stefan mentioned, was to make it an economical solution. And so what our concept was, by putting this air into the pond, you get the hydroxyl radicals that are great for this other chemistry, but you also increase the amount of dissolved oxygen in the pond. And the catfish being in the pond, they breathe, and they need to breathe oxygen just like we do. And some of the algae in the pond help to make oxygen through photosynthesis during the day, but at night, they switch over to actually sucking up the oxygen from the pond, and the oxygen levels in the pond really drop. And so these ponds need aeration. And right now they have kind of paddle wheel aerators that throw up water into the air, water droplets, and they absorb oxygen, and it aerates the surface around where these paddle wheels are. But it doesn't mix up the pond so much. So I've got a little picture right here on the right of kind of what we're picturing doing. So we're just going to suck water in to our nanobubble generator there. We've got a screen on the intake to help keep debris and fish out of there. And then we inject nanobubbles out through the right side of that thing. And we've got some drums there for flotation, so it rests on the surface. And the jet coming out helps mix the pond, and it provides aeration. And so our value proposition is that we expect this to use about the same amount of energy and be about the same cost, or maybe even a little less than the surface aerators that are currently used in the ponds. But we get the benefit of cyanobacteria inhibition also.
Gotcha. Jenna, is there anything that you wanted to also add?
I think Kimball did a really good job of giving a nice overview of our proposal and what we think. So yeah, I think our main points is that, you know, this is an environmentally friendly solution. As Stephen mentioned, a lot of treatments currently are using algicides, which sometimes can be toxic and can be bad and harmful to some of the other aquatic organisms in the system. And so the benefit of this is we're really just adding oxygen into the system. So it is not harmful to any of the aquatic organisms, with the exception of the bacteria and cyanobacteria that we want to get rid of. So it's a really good positive there. And as he mentioned, it has added benefits of giving good, adding growth rate to the fish. So you're getting that added benefit there. So it's kind of a good solution that can give you some extra benefits.
Yeah, definitely. Wonderful. Thanks so much, you guys. All right, so our second prize winner. Vijay, are you ready to go?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
My solution is like using the ultrasonic vibrators. Ultrasonic is propagated via series of compressions and rarefaction waves. Formation of cavitational bubbles. The process of formation of vapor phase of liquid when it is subjected to reduce the pressure at constant temperature. And the formation of cavitation bubble will occur. It is a repermeable sonoporation. The conjunction of low intensity of the ultrasounds and encapsulated micro bubbles can alter the permeable of cell membrane, offering a promising technique for non-invasive drug delivery. Our main target is to reduce the geosmin and 2-MIB. It improves, our product improves the disinfection. Mixing of ultrasounds with the bacteria suspension is being generated a call action of cavitation damage and weaken the bacterial cell. And advanced oxidation process will be degrading of emerging contaminants present in the water. Osmotic streaming, steady flow in a fluid driven by absorbing of high amplitude of osmotic oscillation. Bottom aeration will occur. Gaseous cavitation bubbles contain dissolved gas and vaporized water. Membrane filtration depends on the effect of frequency, membrane properties, and temperature. And decontamination. It is a disrupt to the cell of algae species and the freshwater bacteria separated from recirculating the aquaculture system water. That's all. And our system is like eco-friendly, and we are using the 200 kilohertz per 240 seconds. And the benefits for this is higher survival rate, and bottom aeration and absence of excess body mucus, optimum utilization, feed utilization, and gaining of 20 to 30% of body weight by ultrasounds. The fish, that's all. Hello.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. So Vijay, was this like the first idea that you went with, or were there like a couple of different ideas that you originally thought of? I'm just curious
No,
what your thought process was.
it was my second one. I won the second challenge. First one is the beat the Beatles.
Gotcha.
Hello. Yeah. Beat the Beatles. The first challenge you have placed. I think last year. And the second was this, protecting the aqua.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Most welcome. So, all right, rounding off our winners roundtable, we have our first prize winner, Laura. So before you get into your presentation, I'm curious, how surprised were you that you won first prize?
That was pretty surprising. I really didn't know if y'all would like the idea or not. And I thought it might take a little bit of preparation in the beginning to set up the mechanism. But I was also thinking, well, it would save them thousands and thousands of dollars over the years to have like a totally natural system. And on top of it, I really didn't know what y'all would make of it. Mm-hmm. And then we had this massive fish kill, the Texas winter freeze that we just had about 3 weeks ago. And I hadn't even really thought about when I think I submitted this back in October or November. And I hadn't really thought about it until we had that freeze, because we lost like over close to 4 million fish.
Wow.
And yeah, massive die-off. The temperature dropped so fast. And the air temperature really, and it transformed to the water, and it caused so much mass cold shock in the fish that we had literally like lakes here in town, which is hundreds of dead fish floating on them. It was like a biological problem. They had to get people in hazmat suits to go clean it. And at that point I thought, you know what, like, even though that wasn't like really the intent of what I'd submitted, it actually would have prevented that. And I thought maybe they'll consider that because it has this other benefit as well. And in addition to hopefully, preventing the cyanobacterial and the winter rotty flavors. But I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know if like 20 other people were going to submit the same idea, or if like I was going to be like the only one. Because it really comes more from what I do, which is, designing, like thinking more in terms of thermodynamics and ovens and solar. And so I didn't know like what would be made of it. I'm glad you liked it, but I'll tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, so why don't you share a little bit more? But to our listeners, I want you guys to really think about this. It's not like when she submitted this, she's like, this is a slam dunk, they're gonna absolutely love this. So the whole idea is you're not really sure when you're actually competing in these challenges how some of these solutions are going to resonate. So you shouldn't hesitate. So that's the magic. So you might think to yourselves, oh, there's nothing I can really contribute to this challenge or any other challenge. Don't be so sure. It's not until you go through and read what's there, and the most simplest of ideas can be the most powerful. And I'm excited to learn more, Laura, about your solution that you actually ultimately won with.
Yeah, I agree. There were probably 100 different ways you could have looked at this, and I had no idea, the backgrounds of other people and where they were going to come from. But you just never know. But I'm glad y'all found this useful. So, and I hope it could really prevent, a lot of suffering, not only for the fish, but for the farmers as well, and just instability in the whole system. So the basic principle is thermodynamic rather than strictly biological. And basically there's 5 or 6 problems that you want to solve. I started at it, first looking at what are the off flavors and how do the fish get rid of them. And so the off flavors reside in the fish's fat as VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, primarily alcohols. And in order to get rid of them, the fish has to depurate or metabolize them. But the fish are cold-blooded, and so their metabolism is pretty closely regulated to the water, the temperature. the temperature of the water, I'm sorry. And so it'll slow down almost completely in cold water, and they'll stop moving, and they won't even eat. They'll just kind of like sit there. And so the cold water stops them from eating. And when I started looking at this, I was only thinking of the winter, because there's two problems. There's the winter problem, which is the off flavor, which is rotty flavor. And there's mostly the summer problem, which is the cyanobacterial flavor, which is a whole different geosmin tumib kind of a nasty flavor, but they have different causes. And so the cold water stops them from eating. And so they go into like a starvation mode. And when people are starving, then they have to burn fat, but they'll try not to, and they'll try and spare their fats. And so the VOCs are caught in the fats, and so the fish are trying not to burn the fat as much. And so it's just going to trap it. They can't expel it. And then when the temperature rises, they haven't eaten, and so they're starving. And so they're going to eat anything available, including like the rotten dead fish, dead plants, anything that if the cold front happened and it killed like fish or plants, they're going to eat that. And then they get these off flavors, just like a rotten garbage, decomposing flavor from what they've been eating. Because the cold water, especially like these cold fronts we just had in Texas, will kill the plants. And then you've got, making the problem grow, because now you have all these extra nutrients in the water from the rotting plants. And that's going to kind of contribute and become the substrate that sets the stage for the cyanobacterial algae in the summer. And, the fish are coming out of that starvation, they're eating this, and that's causing their bad flavor. And I think Stephen had mentioned this also about having, algae problems on rocks, is that people who maintain aquariums, they use plant density to prevent the algae, because healthy plants will restrict algae from growing on them. And they also absorb the excess nutrients. And so they're kind of like a natural balance. But if it gets too cold, then they die, and then they make the problem worse, because now you've got all this dead, rotten material that's kind of dissolving, and the fish are eating it. And so the more I was like looking into this, I was realizing that the winter problem is caused by the sudden cold drops, and the summer problem with the cyanobacteria is contributing to it, because when they die and when you have all this material in there, you're getting ammonia, you're getting like excess like organic compounds in the water. And then, when it heats up, when the water heats up, then you've got the cyanobacteria, producing exponentially and reproducing. And so then I was, and I mentioned that I always try and consider, the cancer problems that we've had here, and how can you solve this naturally? And there's very few things that will actually eat cyanobacteria. Shrimp generally don't eat it. And I started looking at like what would actually, is there like a fish or a creature that will eat the cyanobacteria selectively? And it turns out that there is a type of fish called threadfin shad or summer shad, and they are filter feeders, right? And so they filter out and they eat the cyanobacteria. And so there actually were, and I wrote about this, there were studies showing that having the shad fish in the tank with the catfish completely prevented the cyanobacteria flavors, because they were selectively eating it and so filtering it out. And so it never had a chance to reach that threshold where it starts growing. But the problem with that is that the shad, or the little fish, are extremely cold sensitive, and they will die in mass if the temperatures drop too fast. And so, putting them in there is kind of a risk, because yes, they will prevent the cyanobacteria, but if you have even like a little bit of a cold front, then they'll just die. And then you've got a bunch of dead fish in there, and then the catfish are going to eat that, and then they're going to produce the ammonia and the nutrients, and then it's going to spiral out of control. And these systems are somewhat unnatural. I was looking specifically at the levee systems, which are dug out of clay soils, right? And I think y'all gave us a video about that. And they have the big tractors, pushing the soil out to build a levee in the pond. And where was I? Okay, and so yes, and so that is why you probably don't have some of the natural controls that you would in, like a lake or a stream or a pond, because these are kind of like artificial systems. And then in the final analysis, like we had here with the freeze, we had like 4 million fish die because they're cold-blooded. And like even if you buy a fish at like in an aquarium store, like you have to put them in the plastic bag, you float them in the water so they can very slowly acclimate. And so the shad are extremely cold sensitive. But like even here, like I think even the catfish died, everything died here. And I mean, that was so anyway, so all of this, I was, kind of thinking about it. And I came to the, my solution was basically don't focus so much on the biology of it, but look at the thermodynamic aspects of what you're dealing with here. And the root of it, I felt, was that you have to figure out a system to prevent the water temperature from dropping too fast, too low. And you do want to keep like the price low. Like you don't want to add a bunch of costs to, these fish farmers, because I don't think that they are really, multimillionaires, like all this money to spend. And
Right.
so, yeah. And so I was thinking, okay, so what are we working with here? And this comes back to like when I'm doing like ovens or like solar stoves and stuff, you're looking at like the materials that you're dealing with. And so going back to like the fact that they're dug out of clay, and they want that because clay retains water, right? And so the water is not going to go down; it's going to stay in the levee pond that you build. So clay also has extremely high heat retentive properties, and this is why ovens have been built out of clay for thousands of years. They have high heat capacity and heat retention. They also have been looked at in other like solar thermal applications as a heat battery. And so I thought, well, here you've got this big surface, this big basically container made out of clay. And that would be ideal, really, as a huge thermal battery if you wanted to store heat in it to release later when the temperature drops. And so the material itself of the levee could be a temperature stabilizing mechanism, even though these are large, shallow bodies of water. And then of course I do a lot of solar, and so I'm very familiar with all different types of ways of heating things with solar power. And so then I was thinking, well, how would you get the solar power, which is very powerful actually. You can get close to like 900 watts per square meter with certain types of collectors. I mean, you can really generate a lot of heat. And so I'm thinking, okay, heat up. And then, you have geothermal systems, which I almost installed here in my house. I had started building something similar to this for an underground air conditioner. And the problem we ran into is that we have clay soil here. And so it was going to function more like a heater after a few years. It was going to retain too much heat. And so I had to scrap that idea. It was always like in the back of my mind, clay is actually going to be more of like a heating system. And so then, as I was thinking through this, I was like, oh, well, they've got clay levees, like, leading into like thermal battery. So basically geothermal systems have been around for many, many years. Very, very simple systems, almost entirely passive. You just run closed loops, either under the soil or on top of the soil in the pond. And those just circulate water back and forth, back and forth. And because it's a closed loop, you don't have like pressure drops. And so it's a very low wattage system. It's not like normally, like if you had to pump water up the top of a building, you'd have to create, you're losing pressure when they open the faucet, right? But here, the gravity brings it back. And so really like less, I think most of these pumps run on like less than 100 watts. And so
Wow.
very low, like you could basically, I think, run it off of a solar panel if you wanted to. And so that was like the three components. Oh, those are the three components of the system. Then I was like thinking, well, would you want to, let's say you already have the levee pond, right? You don't want to like go in there and do construction and dig out the floor. Can you just like drop the loops into the pond? They'll sink down onto the floor, and then the heat's going to radiate basically on the face of it, like however you do the loops. So the heat's going to radiate up into the water, which also has a very high heat capacity. And it's going to radiate down into the clay. And would that be enough, just so that if like we have a cold front coming, you know, the temperature's kind of here, and then the air is going to, you know, drive the temperature down. Would that, the heat that you, especially if you like knew the cold front was coming on the radar and you started like running it at full blast, pushing it, you know, heat down into the clay, would that be enough just to prevent like the sharp drop that kills the fish? Like, would it be enough just to level it out so that the fish can acclimate a little bit slower, and then they won't, you know, like get shocked and die? And that's what I was looking into. I was looking into other like styles of geothermal where you know, you do it like vertically, you dig them into the ground, put them down like 3 or 4 feet. And that would be like if you were building a new pond construction, that you would just, as you have the tractors out there moving the soil, would just tell them like, guys, just dig out some trenches for a radiator, and we'll just throw some loops in there. And looking at all of that, let's see what else I can tell you.
So have another, maybe just another like 30 seconds or so. I just want to make sure that we come back to the US, to the team, to just kind of see what we're going to be doing next. So.
Oh yes, that was basically it. You can either set up a small system just to depurate the VOCs in the summer, in the winter, just right before you harvest them. Or you could set up a big system, and that way you could keep the shad, the plants, and the fish alive all throughout the winter and the summer, and have very little other stuff you have to do to maintain it, because the shad will take care of the cyanobacteria for you.
Gotcha. You know, I hate the hardest part about doing moderating is, you know, being the one that has to pull out the hook. I don't want to pull out the hook. I can probably listen to you guys. No, it's all good.
Going on.
No.
I hope you understood.
No, and you know what's really interesting is exactly what you just said. Is it's just so interesting. And when I listen to each of you guys share, and I don't know if anybody else was really present to it, but it was amazing how different each of you guys approached solving the problem. And, you know, with myself, I mean, everything that you guys said is just so beyond my unique ability. It all sounds phenomenal, but there's just so many different ways of approaching the same problem. And just in this webinar, in this 60 minutes, there's just so much diversity that came out of those solutions, which was pretty amazing. But honestly, just really, really great shares, you guys. And, you know, on behalf of the USDA and HeroX, huge congratulations to each and every one of you. Just honestly, really, really well done. We're so excited and pleased that you guys won, and we're so pleased and excited to see that, you know, the USDA team got what they were looking for solutions. So as they say, it was just a win-win across the board. So Caird and Sujata, just coming back to you guys now that you have all of these incredible solutions, what's next for you guys?
I'll tell you, as great as it was to get 85 applications, it was wonderful to hear you guys present your ideas and take us through your thought process. So thank you for that. You know, we've had at least 10 of our scientists on the webinar looking at your presentations and, you know, thinking about the solutions that you're proposing. And so I think our next step is to huddle as an agency, you know, with our scientists. We've also had some university folks that are very interested in this topic who have also participated. So, you know, very interested in interacting with them to see, you know, what is the next step? You know, what can we do? What do they think about the ideas? Could they mesh with things that our scientists are thinking? And then, you know, what kind of partnerships can we form to demonstrate the effectiveness of these strategies and, you know, work towards our ultimate goal, which is really to get a commercialized technology, you know, into the hands of the farmers and prevent off flavor in catfish. So thank you all so much for your submissions. And I'd also say that, you know, there are probably other opportunities out there as well. So for ARS, we'll pursue this. But there's been other people on the call as well who might have ideas. So, you know, the future of this, some of it might involve us and some of it might involve the community at large. So, you know, our goal is to have an activity that solves this challenge one way or another. So we're really glad that we had this opportunity.
Exciting. Sujata, any other final comments just really quickly that you wanted to offer?
No, I just want to say congrats and thank you for your solutions. I think Cared is looking forward to getting our folks together, and I'll be listening into those and seeing where we can help you all take this.
Wonderful. That pretty much brings us to time. So just a really quick final thought on my end. One of the biggest reasons that I joined HeroX is that it offers a platform that really can truly make an impact. And I'm hugely passionate about leveling the playing field, regardless of what color, creed, religion, where in the world you're located, or whether you have formal education, whether you don't. None of that really matters. What matters is who has the best idea. So the idea of democratizing the opportunities and creating that added connectivity, I do really sincerely see this as the future of work. And, what a powerful way to make an impact on the world by providing such amazing opportunities. And when you have so many great minds that come together, the ideas and the solutions that otherwise potentially we would not have been able to find. So it's really, when you look at it bigger picture, it's pretty phenomenal what it is that crowdsourcing creates when it comes to opportunities. So that really just brings the close of our discussion today. So if you haven't registered onto HeroX, you really got to register. You got to go and take a look at all these different amazing projects that you could potentially compete in. For our sponsors, those that might be potentially looking for solutions, email me directly, get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to help you out, but there's really literally nothing that you can't crowdsource. To our winners, once again, huge congratulations. It was such a pleasure to learn more about each and every one of you and to hear firsthand so much of the passion behind the solution. To our guests, Cared and Sujata, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules for joining us today. For our listeners, get inspired. Check out some of those challenges and see what you can do to contribute to crowdsourcing. And with that, I'd like to thank you so very much for joining us today. Please stay safe. And depending on where you are in this big wide world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you so very much, everybody.
Thank you.